Before you read my post, I am not from America. I am sorry if my writing is terrible, but I will do my best. For background context, I was married when I was 22 and my husband was 25. He had a daughter who was 2 when we married. I consider her my daughter in every way. My husband passed away sadly when she was 4. So I have been with my fiancé, Jesse, for 8 years. My daughter Bailey is 14. She considers Jesse her father. Jesse has never treated Bailey wrong at all, but I know of my husband who passed away. Jesse has always treated her sweetly and like a daughter. I'm currently 6 months pregnant. We are all excited. Jesse has told me how he wants to adopt Bailey after getting married. To surprise her, we are getting married in August. I wouldn't say we are close to being done with everything, but we did plan a big dinner, and I did invite my friends and Jesse's friends. Bailey was staying the night over at a close friend's house. So Bailey wasn't there. We were all catching up and having a great night. Just all-around happiness from everyone. Till the topic of the wedding came up. That is when things went downhill. It was all good. We got to talking about our honeymoon. We were going to bring Bailey. Because that was our plan. When Jesse did say he didn't want to bring Bailey, which kind of shocked me. Because we both agreed to it, I was taken aback by it. He started going on about how now we both have a real child, and we don't have to pretend anymore to take care of my stepdaughter, who was never my real child. This point, all our friends and I were very flabbergasted and looked at him, like he had something crazy on top of his head. He kept going on, until I kind of freaked out in front of everyone and told him that Bailey would always come first and he is last to me now. That he had to leave, and I'm canceling the wedding. He tried talking to me, but I was not in shape to hear him. His friends escorted him out for me and left with him. Few of my girlfriends stayed with me that night. Jesse had been blowing up my phone so much, wanting to work things out. I honestly don't ever want to. I haven't told Bailey what happened and just lied to my family and his family about why we canceled the wedding. I just want some quiet now and not for anyone to be upset. But some of his friends did message me saying, he has the right to talk about his feelings and opinion, which got me so puzzled at this point. Am I the a-hole? Update. Hi all, just a quick update. I couldn't sign into my old account, but I made another one. With the same name, but with a number in it. So, right to the update. I talked to Bailey much more earlier and told her everything. She was shocked and cried. It broke in my heart to see her that way. We just hug each other. She said if she had only been a better daughter, he would have not felt that way. I reassured her that wasn't the case at all. That Jesse was just an awful man and a coward. Bailey said she forgave him but would never forget what he said. She still misses him and still calls him dad, even after everything he put her through. She's a brave young girl. I am making sure that Jesse doesn't ever get in contact with Bailey. He did, however, ask if we could talk in person, to at least mend things. I agreed and met him the next day after the whole incident. We met in a public spot with others around, in case he tried doing something funny. Jesse told me how sorry he was, and that he loves Bailey and our baby the same. He still wants to marry me, that he wants to come home. All I saw was horse shit. I knew he was lying. I told Jesse that I would never look at him the same, that I will only get in contact with him after I give birth to our daughter. Jesse did beg me, over and over. I stood my ground and said no to each of his pleading demands. Then he dropped a big thing on me, which I never knew. He said that he cheated and the woman is better in every way, to add sugar on top of the crap he dropped on me. He is cheating with his best friend Carter's wife, who has 3 kids. Yes, this is one of the friends that defended him. He was sleeping with his wife. She was also at the dinner party, was always nice to me. When she was sleeping with my fiancé. Not only did Jesse and that vile woman destroy a family, they destroyed 2, with kids. What a lovely, great man. I did leave after he told me that. Blocked him everywhere. Messaged Carter, told him that Jesse was sleeping with his wife. He did tell me he was suspicious of his wife sneaking around. It wasn't her first time. I feel really awful now for him. He did apologize for not being on my side and that we were always great friends. I did forgive him and didn't blame him for defending his best friend, because both Carter and Jesse have been best friends since elementary. I told him I'll be there for him. For support, he was appreciated by my offer. He told me he would be there for me as well. Carter told their friend group and had blocked Jesse. He is going to divorce his wife, so we have each other to lean on for support. I also did ask Bailey if she wanted a therapist. She said yes, and I am looking for one. She has been staying in her room more, only coming out just for food or to use the restroom. It breaks my heart, because she is always so bright and jolly. Now she's just depressed and feeling low. Her close friends have been coming over and staying with her. My family plans on coming. Don't worry, I did tell Jesse's family everything and my family. Both families are awfully mad at Jesse. I do plan on staying in contact with Jesse's family. I have always been so close to them. They helped raise Bailey and they see us as family. I also can't forget I am carrying Jesse's daughter. Jesse's parents want to see Bailey, as she is their granddaughter. I even plan on changing the locks, as I don't feel safe with just Bailey and I. Even if we do have few big dogs and lots of goats. My best friend Rosie is staying with me, so we have a lot of support on our side. Even thank you all to everyone who commented. I am grateful. You all are great humans. That is my update, and probably be the only one. Thank you again. Edit. Everyone asking me to get an abortion. Or I shouldn't go through with having my child. I will not get an abortion, and I am going to keep my child. I'm far along, and I am blessed for my daughter. I can co-parent with Jesse. Edit 2. To the people who are saying this is fake, I am not sure how to prove to you all, which honestly I just posted to update everyone. About my old account, I couldn't sign in, as I did post on my story that I added the same name but put a 1 on it. I am not from America, if you want to continue to think it is fake. Then be my guest. Relevant comments. Somebody said, so he told you that he was sleeping around while asking you to mend things? I was following the story, but this is a weird update. Why would he out himself? And why does every failed relationship on Reddit have the same ending of a spouse cheating out of blue? I am just confused. Don't come at me, People Original Poster replied. That's what got me so puzzled. I didn't even know he was cheating for the last 2 years. Before this whole incident, he didn't show any sign of cheating and just admitted to this. A commenter, he's not alone. His friend is divorcing his wife and he bragged about that wife. The pariahs will be together and lean on each other for support. Both families will be entangled for at least a few years due to the connection of the children. Original Poster needs to have stipulations in that co-parenting agreement to deal with that. Original Poster replied, I don't even know. I think he really just said that she was better than me, to just hurt me. Like Carter said, it wasn't her first time cheating. I do have a plan for co-parenting, right after I give birth soon.
I and my husband were having a discussion about politics, and we got onto the topic of our daughter, who is 7 years old, which led to me expressing my fears about her rights and bodily autonomy. For context, my husband votes Republican, and I have always considered myself independent, but recently have been shifting very far away from my younger, carefree attitude toward politics. I love him very much, and I know for a fact that he loves me, but I have started finding his opinions naive and lacking depth. He is a very good man, though, and has in the past changed his mind on several things when confronted with them. Further context: my cousin lives in a strict anti-abortion state and almost died a few years ago when the doctors waited until she was actively dying of sepsis before they decided it was okay to remove the dead baby from her body, even though it had been dead for weeks beforehand. So needless to say, I had a wake-up call and sharpened up my principles until they are very shiny and pointy. Last night, when we were talking about abortion rights being healthcare, I lost my composure out of sheer terror about the possibility of a similar disaster with my cousin happening to our daughter, and how I struggle to understand how he doesn't see the problem with his party, and that in fact I think he is being willfully ignorant to the danger I and my daughter face in favor of his idea about making economics work for our family. I also said, that if our daughter dies due to something preventable, like the ability to get a timely and much-needed abortion, or gets shot to death in school, that I would let my own mother rot in a nursing home. She votes R too, and I'd never be able to look him in the face again, which would basically be me disappearing and divorcing him. I was crying and upset and explaining how scared I was, and he asked me in a very hurt manner if I'd actually abandon him like that. I am truthful to a fault and said that I would, perhaps out of a sense of illogical grief and betrayal, because I'd know my concerns were not taken seriously and that they had abandoned common sense and did nothing to attempt preventing a very real consequence of voting away mine and my daughter's right to health care. I equated it to a slow-motion car wreck with our daughter in mortal danger and him just watching it happen because it doesn't involve his own body. I know he needs to hear it. But I think I was too raw and open about it to steer the conversation in a healthy way, and I have a very blunt manner. I apologized this morning for saying that I'd leave him, even though I knew I would, and he tentatively accepted it. And I said we'd talk about things later when I can articulate things in a healthier way. But I'm at a loss as to how to make it known how deadly serious this is to me and not make him feel like I'd abandon our marriage over just any sensitive topic. I do not need people telling me to leave him. I don't think I know how to make it any more digestible and be clear without going nuclear over something that has not happened, as our daughter is too young to suffer that yet. The rub is that I am the person who is changing the dynamic of our relationship, and I am beginning to understand how politics breaks up families. Relevant comments. Ask him to name scenarios that he would accept the premature death of his daughter. Ask him to name what life-saving health care he would be willing to deny for his daughter based on principles. If he can't name any, ask him, why is abortion different? Use your cousin's story as a hypothetical for your daughter, but be as graphic with it as you can be. But in all honesty, if you must labor so much to convince him to care about yours and your daughter's health and well-being, then this should also serve as a wake-up call to you. And if I were you, I'd take back your apology. You meant what you said and only apologized to comfort him. I say, let him be uncomfortable. Why are you so concerned with the bluntness of your words and not concerned about how quick he is to dismiss you? I'm the daughter of a Republican dad and liberal mom. I'm honestly not sure why they are still together, and think it is because they are older and retired. Luckily, I live in a liberal state that doesn't take away human rights, so I think it allows my mom not to think about it as much. It's been since Trump that I've really seen the division between them. I don't really have any advice to give you, but the perspective from a daughter in a similar type of situation. I love my dad, but I don't have a lot of respect for him because I don't think he actually understands what's going on. It hurts as a daughter to know my dad votes for a party that is actively doing bad to a lot of human rights, mainly because he believes in the economics of Republicans. I also hate having to be around my parents in the evening, especially if they are watching the news. My mom definitely holds frustration for my dad and takes it out by saying mean things to him. And I feel like my dad doesn't take it seriously because I don't think he actually understands how scary this is for certain people. I wish my parents would do therapy together. And honestly, you guys should probably do therapy together if you actually want to make your marriage work without resentment growing. The worst part is all these men talk about the economics of being a Republican when all the data shows time and time again that those economics are absolutely horrible for 99.9% of us. They literally will cause harm to their families and others because they believe lies and don't want to hear otherwise. I understand why you don't want advice to leave him, but you may have to accept that as your reality simply because your morals, values, and ethics are no longer compatible. But of course, do everything you can to try to reach him. Obviously, deep down, you know him and know he has the potential. I went through this with my own husband years ago, and I wasn't nice about it. It was pretty much a deal breaker for me then and now, and he was too busy being smugly libertarian on every other issue, so I had nothing to lose. That said, once he extracted his head from his rectum, I've been happy to explain things from my perspective as long as he's willing to actually listen. He's not perfect, but he gets a lot that men generally don't or take for granted. I do know that one of my big points was that his views meant I couldn't trust him. Women's reproductive rights sure don't affect men directly, but by not caring about the issue because they care about the women in their life, they are sending a clear message that women are interchangeable appliances. He either cares about the things that are important to you, or he doesn't actually care about you. He can't claim to love and respect you and want a future with you if he's voting against your basic interests. That is hurtful for you, but you are allowing him to center his feelings, hurt, because you threaten to divorce him someday. He's hurting you now, but he wants to focus on his potential future pain that would be a direct consequence of his behavior now. Let that sink in. He is telling you exactly where you stand with him in multiple ways. Further, he's deluded if he thinks voting for Trump, Republicans, is going to actually be good for his finances. Maybe in the short term. The reality is that any gains he makes will be offset by the tax overhaul and tariff system. If your wealth is dependent on your income in any significant way, Trump winning would put your income at risk, as women are forced out of the workplace and into a housewife role. If your income depends on either of you working overtime, Trump is giving employers a way to deny overtime premiums through creative scheduling. A lot of tax deductions and credits that primarily benefit low and middle class families are being eliminated, while those that benefit the wealthiest are left intact or strengthened. We've already had a preview of his roided-out trickle-down economy from his first term. Your husband is being incredibly short-sighted. I'm not sure what you are trying to achieve with this post. You say you don't need people telling you to leave him. However, the harsh reality is, in this situation, that is your present and your future, as long as you stick with Republican men. He is not a very good man when he puts your daughter's, and every other woman's life at risk by voting for people who want nothing but destruction and power. That doesn't change, no matter how much you gaslight yourself that you can somehow fix him or see reason. Sorry to be so blunt about it. Update. We had a serious discussion. I went into more detail about my concerns and fears, and it was intense. I was much better at presenting the case. I gave him several hypotheticals that involved a particularly gruesome set of circumstances involving his ballsack. I won't bore you with the nitty-gritty, but the gist was to shift his perspective. I told him to seriously consider carrying a tiny fetus in his ballsack, and the fact that the risks were things like exploding balls, sepsis, etc., and the myriad of ways he could end up dead, permanently physically injured and disfigured, or unable to produce a fetus in the future if he didn't have the option of removing the fetus from his ballsack. I asked him if he would even want to take the risk, and he agreed that he'd be very likely to remove it unless he was ready for those risks. I asked him, why in the world would I be justified in telling him he has to carry it no matter what, and it might only be removed after it starts to explode out of his ballsack, or his organs start shutting down, etc. Once he seemed to start grasping the enormity of what abortion encompasses, and seeing why it's very important to not let unknown people control what options you have, with no medical reason, I told him I lost a bit of respect for willful ignorance, and that I can tell he avoided thinking about it because he knows in some way that it says something about his character. And I resented having to even give him a hypothetical in the first place, and that if he cares for me and our daughter, that he should automatically, actively be using his empathy skills every day. I explained how I have demonstrated the capacity to care about and evaluate gender issues he's brought to my attention in the past. That was a difficult part of the conversation. I also told him that I do not trust him to always make good decisions for us, and that I feel alone in shouldering those responsibilities. He listened and let me talk a lot. He asked if I was going to leave him, and he was clearly nervous and bracing for the worst. I told him I'm not taking drastic steps like that, but I certainly will when it comes to keeping our daughter healthy and safe. I also started to say something about how I know I would lie to him in a heartbeat in a situation where our daughter needed an abortion or medical care, and he interrupted me to say, You wouldn't have to lie because I'll be driving the car or buying the plane tickets, and we will all go anywhere we need to. Y'all, I burst into tears. We ended the conversation, and he said I laid a lot on him, and he needed a break, but said he had things to think about. I didn't push any more politics, but I think I feel like my trust has been slightly restored. I'm not getting my hopes up, but I think he realizes that he's wading in dark and dangerous waters when it comes to our futures. Relevant comments. All of this reminds me so much of that scene in the show The Handmaid's Tale, where June finds out that she's not allowed to access her bank account anymore, and that her husband has to sign something for her to get birth control pills. And her husband dismisses her concerns, basically saying, "That's okay, I'll take care of you, no big deal, it's fine." It's easy to dismiss a concern when that concern doesn't seem to affect you directly. And the problem is that no matter what we say, no matter what example we give, some people will always have a degree of removal from an issue that can affect their understanding and their empathy. My own husband is empathetic and caring, but he doesn't understand why I, someone staring down the barrel of menopause, is so angry about abortion access restrictions. He doesn't understand why I, a woman in a loving marriage that doesn't look likely to end anytime soon, is upset about the end of no-fault divorce. Or why I, as someone with no connection to prison, is upset about our horribly inequitable carceral system. And he will say he understands my objections, but then he's like, why bother wasting energy getting upset about it? I don't know how to get across to him that just because it doesn't apply to me, us right now, doesn't mean it won't later. I also don't know how to get across to him that it's very difficult to see attacks on our ability to get a divorce or access an abortion as a direct slap against me as a woman. If someone punches someone else like me in the face while staring me directly in the eye to show me that they would be doing it to me if they could, that's very upsetting. But they aren't looking him in the eye, so he doesn't see it that way. Somebody said, "I'm glad you have this talk and that he is starting to reconsider his decisions. But I hope you are very clear with him that this isn't about him setting aside his views for the special case of you and his daughter. Other women are entitled to the same respect and autonomy that he wants for his daughter. If his position is that he will pack the bags and buy the tickets for y'all, but he will nonetheless continue to vote for all other women to be oppressed, he's not a good man." Original poster replied, "We talked about the women getting turned away from emergency rooms across the country because they were having pregnancy complications for babies they likely wanted to keep. And it was like I could see a gear start cranking in his head. Total silence. Like he'd never considered that a lot of women who seek emergency abortions actually wanted their babies." Another comments, "My husband and I had this discussion before our first was born. This was before Roe v. Wade was overturned, but the writing was on the wall that it might go. We live in a very high cost of living city for my job, but things weren't going well, and we were debating moving. I told him that as long as kids were on the table, moving to a red state was out of the question. I refused to move to a place where I would not be able to get access to care that I needed and end up dead just because we were trying to have a child." My husband brushed it off. One of his close family members is one of the most prominent obstetrician gynecologists in the country. He said that when the worst came to worst, she would help us out. But I said, how exactly? Imagine I'm suffering from sepsis and about to die, and the hospital I'm in literally will not perform an abortion. What exactly will she do? And he stopped in his tracks. That ended the discussion right there. My husband had simply never had to consider it before. At the time, we weren't seriously thinking about kids, so he hadn't really thought it through. In any case, in a few short years, Roe v. Wade was overturned, and I ended up pregnant with our first child. I'm currently pregnant with our second. We still have regular discussions about potentially moving. Never once subsequently has he ever considered a red state. So glad he finally understood the reason why we need to vote the way we do to protect our bodies. But is he going to back up what he says he now understands by voting the opposite of what he's done before?